that will be very difficult and very complicated, and later you will need to update it. That will be even more difficult. So event and prop is useful in case it's just one or two components connecting to each other. If not, you use the state management. But when I say like this, it doesn't mean that event and prop is useless. Actually, it's very useful, but in some cases only. When you use event and prop between two components, it's very readable. It is easy to understand. So in case you have only two components connecting between each other, I would recommend to use the event and prop instead of using state management, because if you use state management, it's too big for just a simple thing. All right. So it's just like you want to go to somewhere just 1 kilometer away, but you take a bus. It doesn't make sense, right? Just take a bike. It's simple. So event and prop is useful in the some communication on the one or two component. But if you have something complicated like this, you need to use the state management. So here, instead of communicating from one to the bottom to the other, we have like a shared storage. A shared storage here in our case, we call it UH. UH is you can say the library. It's a library that can be used inside your application, and it acts like a shared folder that can be accessed from any component. It is the same like React. React also has the same concept. I remember it called Reduce. The same thing, you can then communicate with the shared folder as well. So here we have UX. I spell it with U and H, right? So here in the UX state management, there are three concepts that we can work with. What they call state, another one called action, and the last one is commutation. But remember that when we are using the UX, we are using the sharing location, the sharing folder between components. So it can be unpredictable and untraceable if you don't manage it correctly. It will be very confusing. Imagine that there are 10 components accessing to it, but you make a mess inside. You don't even know what the data change, why the data is become like this. But actually, there are some components updated without you knowing it. Maybe you code it maybe a long time ago and you forget, and the code will become messy. So it will be very messy if you cannot manage it correctly. So UX have their own advantage, which is easy to access between components, but the disadvantage also have it. That if you don't do it correctly, it will be very messy, and at that time you may need to write it again. So be careful with it, with UX. All right, so after the sharing folder, we call it a thing called source of truth, because there is only one place to store the data. So just make sure that the data in your source is correct. You can be sure that any component have the same data, have the correct data. This is some the benefit advantage of UX. So to install it, this is some a bit old document, but it's still usable. Currently, I think UX is version 4 plus, but you still can use this to install it. In case you are using UX 2 version 2, you can use UX directly. If not, you can use UX next. But some command might be changed. You can better to check in the Google, in Google, just type how to install UX. It's better that way. Anyway, after installation it, you will have access to the store. In UX, the location that store all the data, they call it store here. So normally when we name the variable refer to the UX, we call it store. In usually you can create the store by using create store, but in U2 you can just simply new store. That's it. And then in the store, see here we have the state, we have the mutation, and finally another one is the action. But in here in the example you can see only two. State is just like the section in the store where you can mention what are the property inside your store. Okay, so state is kind of a dictionary listing all the property inside your store. So when you want to use your store, first you need to register your property name. Okay, because the data inside the store is kind of a key value pair. The key name must be unique, and value can be anything. Can be string, can be object, can be array, and whatever. So anyway, you need to register it first. For example, here we have the store which have one property, which is the count here. All right, count is the property name, and the value is 0. And then we have the mutation. Mutation is another section in the store where you mention how to update your state. So here, the mutation we have is called increment. Increment is in the form of a function. And then it has a substate as a parameter. State here refers to all the object here. So inside from the state, you can access to the property count, because count has been registered inside the state, right? From here, you can change the value of property count directly. Okay, so here is an example of the store. Coming here for the schema to represent how you can communicate with the UX store. In here you see there are 3 sections like I mentioned before. We have state, we have mutation, and the last one is we call it action. Mutation is something that used to update the state, and it can have the access with the dev2 directly. So remember, we have dev2 inside the Google Chrome browser. Chrome, you see it. I use it all the time. From there, from the dev2 inside there, you can have access to the mutation. So every time you update the state, the mutation will trigger, and then the dev2 will see the update inside. And from there, you can even roll back and or undo some mutation. Okay, it will be very useful to debug your program. In case something went wrong, you can roll back, or maybe you can see the history of what have you updated inside the store. So, okay, to the state and mutation, I hope you understand about it. But the last one about the action here. The action is something that stay between the component and the mutation. So normally component, when they want to do something like retrieve data, like update something, it doesn't call to mutation directly, but instead it needs to call to the action, and the action will commit to mutation. Commit here meaning that it will call the mutation, and then the mutation will update the state. So here is the cycle how the component interact with the UX. All right, component call the action. Action commit the mutation. Mutation update the state, and finally state render the template again inside the component. All right, any question? Okay, so in case we don't have question, we can keep going. So up until now, just remember that inside the UX we have mutation, we have action, and we have state. So from here you will see a lot of that, a lot of those things. So make sure you understand it. And when you register the store, you can access to store by using this shortcut, this.the store. This is the way that you can access to view store from inside the component of the Vue.js application. Okay. So here, where you call the mutation, can call store.commit. Okay, and here is the mutation name. And you can access to the state by accessing through the state here, store.state.count. Okay. In the example, it means that you access to store through a mutation. You can do that. It's different from here, right? In here, from the schema, it means you need to access to action before go to mutation. But in the example you see here, we can access to mutation directly. Actually, we can do that, just that we don't recommend to do it. Normally, we recommend to access to action, and that action we update the mutation. But somehow, it doesn't mean that you can do, you can write your code to access to mutation directly. It's just that it's not recommended. It's not a best practice. Okay, so here is another example that you can use it with use the shortcut, the result keyword, this is the last store. You can access it from the method section in the Vue.js component. And also you can access to the state through the computed property. You will see this, I will explain later, what is a computed property, what is the method, and what is the template. Just for now, remember that you can access stores like this.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes.
Some student can join the class.
I'm joining class.
Yes. I don't know problem, but they asked me about admit, but I didn't see admit.
But 45. I open to everyone, so they should be able to access it. Maybe I change it again. Normally, if I change to only me like this, when someone join the meeting, they will. I need to allow first, so maybe you can ask them to click join again.
Sure, teacher. Thank you.
Ask them to try again, and if not, tell me again. So let's continue. Okay, so how do you manage this data pattern? Here is the example that we are going to write about the store. This is the representation of the component. Here you can see new view here. It means that you are creating a root component inside your application. And like I mentioned from the last session, there are many sections inside. But here we have the data section where you represent what are the data that you use inside your component. And here is the method, what action that you are going to do inside your component, maybe click on something, maybe show something. So you need to do it inside the method here. And computed property is something that will be auto-calculated based on the data inside it. Okay. So actually there are many more than this, but this three is something that you always see. And then there is the store here. Like I said before, we have state, we have mutation, we have action, and the getter here is something that you use to access to the state instead of call it directly. So here is some kind of optional. You can still use it by using getter to retrieve the data from the state, or maybe you can access to state directly. And then and here is the example of our store. Remember here the state here we have we have state, we have mutation, we have action, and we have the getter. So now in the example we just fill in some code. In the state here there are two properties. One is called loading status, another one is called to do. The loading status is a string, and to do is an array. Okay, so normally when you have two properties set like this, it should have the same amount of mutation as well, because mutation normally represents the state. Mutation is something that sets the value of the state. So if you have two state property, normally you should have two mutation function as well. That's why here we have set loading status and we have set to do. Mutation normally you should write it in capital letter, so that when you see it, you can see you can tell immediately that is the mutation. It's not something that you must do. You can still write it in like a lowercase letter. Just some recommendation that the mutation should write in the capital letter. All right. And then inside the mutations, these two mutations here, we have state as a property. And then we have status. Status here is some additional parameter that they pass when we call the mutation here. So what we do now is that we set the state.loaded status equal to the value which is passing from the parameter. In short, meaning that we are updating the value of property loading status with the status here. The same thing from here, we update the value of to do property with the to do which is passed from the action. Okay. So in here the action we have a function called fetch to do. Just an example. Inside you can see that we are calling associate. Associate is a library of JavaScript we use to call the HTTP request to get data, to update data, or to create new data. So here we are using the associate to call the HTTP GET request to get some data from this API. All right. By the way, do you know what this API is? Hello, do you hear me?
Okay, teacher.
Okay, some connection problem. Okay, come back then. So the associate here call the API to do here to get some data, and from that API, the action we call another two mutation. This means that they upload the loading status to not loading, and then it updates the to do array with the data that it gets from the API here. All right. So in short, in this example, we have one action we use to call the associate request, and then after getting the data from the server, it calls two mutations, one after another, to update the state of your store. Okay, get it? Okay, so here is some representation what I explained before. We call the commit set loading status to loading. So imagine that in your component, when you see the state, the properties loading status equal to loading, you will show this icon like a spinner showing that you are loading something, right? And then after you call the associate get, it will make an HTTP request get to the server to retrieve the data. And then when you get the data, you need to call the mutation set loading status. So before it's loading like this. So now it remove the spinner. And then you call the another mutation by update the to-do array. So in to-do array, it will render some kind of sticker or some kind of a list of items. So in the UI, you can see all the list here. Okay. All right. So after we run all the function above, the state will be changed into something like this. Okay, you can see the to-do will have some element inside. And from this state, you can have another section called getter to retrieve the data inside your state. But normally you can do some additional work. For example, here in the to-do state, there is some element which is marked as done equal true, and some to-do item which is done is equal false. So imagine that you want to get the to-do, but not the whole thing. You want to get the to-do, but only any to-do element which is marked as done, right? So you can write a getter, and you can call it anything. For example, now we call it done to do, and then it retrieves all the to do which is only have the attribute done equal to. We do the filter here in JavaScript array. You can write the filter like this. This is an array, and you can call a filter function. A filter function will run on every element of the array, and will return any object that meet the condition. So here it will filter all the array to do and look at any to do element which have done property equal to true. If it have the element to do done equal to true, it will return another array which consists only any to do with the done property equal to true. Okay. So now we have the example. The exercise, not example. The exercise here, how to use we will have component A and we will have component B. They are in different components. And what we want to do is that by using the increase button here from component A, you can increase the count number to 1. At the same time, this component will also update to 1. And when you click button decrease in component B, it will also decrease the value of count to 0 back. And also at the same time, the count in here will be 0 as well. So the two components will share the same store. It's just that component A will call action increase, component B will call action decrease. All right. So for the exercise, we will work together. You can just watch me how to do it, or if you know how to do it by yourself, go ahead, do it by yourself. If not, just follow through with me. Okay, so here we need to have the project. I go back here. I go to the project folder. 2021. Then we have the custom. I create. See, we have the sample view there. You can create another one. It's up to you. Maybe let's just create a new one. Because I already installed UCLI, so I can write it. Create new project by just simply call view create. well. Step management. Okay. It's something if we use the version 2. Okay, after create a project, we can go inside the project and then we can run environment serve to see our project. So here it's served on the localhost port 8080. Okay, and then you need to install UX inside your UG application. Because right now you don't have access to UX yet. If you check your code in here, if you check your code in here, you can go to the package.json and you can see all the dependency inside your project. So your project will use all the dependency to execute your program. Inside in the dependency here, you can see only Vue and Core.js, but you don't see the Vue here. So for now, you need to install Vue and simply just go to the browser, type install Vue. You can go to the documentation directly. It's the official website. And in here, you can install it by using this command. You can install Vue at next for version 3 here. UX have one version bigger than the current UX. Okay, so Vue v4.8 here will be used for the Vue 3. And in our case, we are using Vue 2, right? So we need to switch to the older version, which is Vue 3, Vue 3. Don't get confused. Vue 8 have one version bigger than the current Vue.js version. Okay, so I use Vue 8 version 3 for our Vue.js version 2. So you go down, look at how to install it. So here you can see we are using npm, so we can use the command, copy it, and go to the terminal and just type or copy paste like this. Okay, and then wait, why it get version 4? Okay, let's just try it. It's supposed to version 3, but it get version 4. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, we can decrease the version. After we have all of this, you can get started by writing some code inside here. So look at in the example from the documentation. First, you need to create the install first, and then you need to apply it into the Vue.js instance here. So go back to your code inside here. You need to look at where you create the Vue.js instance. So go to here main.js. You can see this code here, where you create the Vue.js instance. See, it's the same thing, right? Here and here. So for now, we want to use Vue, right? So just like the documentation, you need to import it first. Import here. From Vue. Okay. And then you need to call view.use. View.use is a global way where you want to register some library. So when you call view.use and library name, remember view is a library. It means that you can access to the library from anywhere. Okay, so here we call view.use and then view. Okay, so after you do this, you can access to the Vue instance anywhere, like as you see in the presentation, like you can access it like this dot the last store like that. Okay, and then you need to create the Vue instance. So maybe we can just copy it. Okay, so here where you create the store instance. Okay, so a store here actually is just a variable which is contain the store instance. And from here you can see we have state count. We have mutation increment. And then you need to register the store here inside our UJS instance here by using this here. Okay, so inside the app. But okay. Looking good. So after that, following our exercise, we want to have two components inside here. So let's remove this and create the component A dot view and another component B dot view. Okay, inside component A, we have the template section. And let's say here, count. Okay, and then we have a button to increase the count number. Okay, and inside here, we have the script section where you define the logic of your component. Before I can name it component A, need to be a string. Actually, it's optional for the name. And then you can define data or you can define methods, up to you. But for now, we need to have a method because the button here, when we click, we need to do something. So we need to have a method here and we call it increase count. And here I just log the mistake increase. Okay, we update this letter. So you want to click on the button to call the method, meaning that you need to call a define a directive click here, and then pass the method name inside. Okay. So we have the component A and then the component B. It's just that in component B we don't have button increase, but we have button. But we have the button decrease. So I change the function to decrease. But decrease, I think they write it wrong. Let's see. Okay. in here, and in here. Okay, and here we name it to component B. So here we do nothing yet because the count is from the store and we don't have access to storage. So just make sure that we call the two components correctly. Okay, so here I call import component A from component A. And then we need to import the component B as well from component B. And then we need to register it locally. Remember how we register it last time? We register component can be done with the local register or maybe a global register. Well, in our case, we will register locally by import it and then list it in the component section here. So we have component B. And then you need to use it to remove this error. You can see component A has been registered but not used. So here we call component A. You can write in a full name like this, or maybe you can write in a lowercase by replacing capital letter with lowercase, just like this. It's also recognizable. Or maybe you can just use this. Okay, so let's see what happened after set it up like this. Go to here, we need to inspect. Okay, I think that something went wrong. But I think we have done some. Remove this first. Remove this first. Make sure that. So it must be something wrong here. Wait a bit. It might be because the version. Let me see about the error. You guys can try it. Maybe I write something wrong. Maybe let's try change the version. Let's see what is the version here. Let's see the code inside. Go to the package.json and we see Vue 8 version 4, but using Vue version 2. Let's change it to version 3, but I need to see the version of the Vue 8 version 3. Vue 8 version Okay, let's just change this to 0. And maybe around in so again. And you can double check here inside the node module, because node module is somewhere that you store all the library. So you will find a folder called UX inside here, and then you can check the packet of JSON to see the version. So we have version 3 now. Okay. Let's try again if it still have any error. I think we are doing something wrong here. So maybe can you try at your home to see if you can fix it. I don't want to use the version 3, that's why some have some problem now. If not, we need to change to version 3, but I think it should be fixable here. So I'm not sure what's wrong. Let me remove this again. So that. Let me remove the WH again. It just try to install again. npm install UA. And change the version here. Make sure the WH here. But why we have only 2? Install. Okay, and change the view version again. UX version. Okay, we have now version 4.2.02. Inside, we create the store. Okay. And we use new view here. It look all right. We don't find the problem here. Let's change this. Here is how we write it in the older way. Just try to write it in the old version. So it should be the same thing. Let's try again. Hey, what's wrong? Anyway, if it doesn't work, I just change to version 3. Yes. If it doesn't work now, we should just create a version 3. Okay, so let's just use the version 3. I'm not sure what's wrong with the version 2. I tried to stick to version 2 for the debug about the dev tool, but if not, you can use the version 3. Okay, cd to start management version 3, and then we can open the code here. It's very similar. You look into the version 3 and the version 2, you can check in the main.js here. See the difference before we use the new view, and then but now we use create app here. Just some different format between version 2 and version 3. If you check the version here, you can see you use the version 3.2. So for now, we use the latest version, and we can change here to the version 4, and then we can see the installation again. It uses this view.ethnic here. Actually, when we use view.ethnic, it should return the version 4, but if we use view without ethnic, it should return version 3, but I don't know why when we install last time, we get version 4 as well. So let's install this for now. Type it like this. All right. So here is the old one. We skip it. We see the new one. And then you see here, UX also 4.0.2. That's why I think that is the problem. It is because it's compatible. Version 4 only works with version 3. So after we have UX installed, we need to follow the instruction how to integrate it. Go down here, and then you can go to get started, and then you can create the store here. Just copy like I have done before, but for now we don't use new UX.store, but instead we call it a function called create store. So copy it like this. Go to main.js, and here, just pass it here. Okay, and then coming back here, we need to create an instance to catch the create up here. Okay, because we need to call up.use on the store like this. And the create store here, you need to import it from UX here. Like this. Okay, so now it should work. I hope so. We go to, I think we need to run to start the server first by running npm run serve. And then we can go to browser and refresh again. Wait, something went wrong again? I thought this. Something's wrong again. Let's see what we have done wrong. Up store, create up, and then up.use. Look good. Wait, I need to mount it at the bottom here. Up.mount, remove it like this. Okay, it looks good now. Because we need to use a store first before we mount it into the HTML app here. So after that, we can have the component, but the component I created in the old version, so I need to copy it back to save some time. We already have the component A and B, so just copy it from here, and then place it inside our new project here, component A and B. And then make sure that you register it locally, component A. Component A. Then we have component B. And then register it here. Component A, component B, and then call it here. All right, so we have component A, and then we have component B. Okay, so refresh here. You can see the component A and component B. This one is component A, this one is component B. You can inspect here. Component A and component B. Okay, but inside there is nothing. We don't even have data. We don't even have anything. You can update it to make it a little bit readable by maybe changing some style inside here. Maybe just make a break here. Okay, and maybe you can add some style, some border. Okay, just to add some style, and then it's like this now. Copy the style here to the component A. So you should have something similar to the exercise. Okay, and if you want to make it in the same row, you can update it inside here. Simple, maybe apply style display flag on it, and then maybe just like this. Okay, so it's left to right, and if you want to have some space, just add some more gap here. Okay, so we have some space. But now, when we click on increase or decrease, what we have here is just the console log. Okay, so what we need to do now is to make sure that when we click on the button increase count, you need to update the state from our store, which is here. Currently count is 0. See? So when we want to click on button increase, if we increase the count value to 1. But first, we should display the value of count inside here first. So to display it, you can access to stat directly, like in the example. We can access to stat directly. Here is our stat. Here, you can access like this, or access directly in the HTML by writing something like $store.stat.count, something like this. Oh. See, so we have 0 here. But in the documentation, they recommend to use it inside the compute property. The compute property is just like some event that will be executed every time the value inside is changed. Okay? It's just a proper way to access to the state, but you can still write what I write here by accessing to the store directly. It works as well, but it's just that we don't recommend to do like that. So instead of access the store directly like this, you can have a computed property here. And we can have call maybe something like get count, whatever. See, so here they call it count. You can name it something else. But here this should be of object. So you can return this dot stat dot count. Okay, remember if you access inside JavaScript section, you need to have this in front. But if you use inside the template, you don't have this object anymore. So if you have something like this, you can access to get count, like so. Okay, it should return the same thing. But cannot read property of undefined. Get count. What? This dot the last store. Okay, I forgot the step. But I write it wrong there. Hey, what's wrong with me? Okay, so it's the same. You can see the value here. It's just that before you access to stat inside your template, now you access to stat inside your computed property. For now, the code here and what I wrote before is just the same thing. But when you write more code in the future, you will see the difference. So I recommend to stick to like this. It's better to change it later. And then when we want to increase the count here, instead of log the message here, you can write this store.commit. When you write commit, it means that you are accessing to the mutation directly. Remember, inside our mutation, we have one mutation called increment. So you can access to commit and pass the name of your mutation. Increment, make sure it's the same. It had the same name. And then when you save it, you come here, you can click increase, so the value will increase here. And then you can change the view here, go to view H. You can see the stat here as well. See, the value increase. Okay. So inside component A, you can update the stat. So inside component B, remember we are not using a property or emit event. We are only using the stat. So inside here, you can access to the stat like inside component A as well. There's something here. And then you can get count here as well. Okay. So now you see the value of the stat can be accessed from component A and from component B. So to decrease it back in here, you need to have another mutation. You need to create another mutation. Just call it decrease, and then pass the stat as a parameter, and then we can reduce the amount of count. Okay, so you can access this mutation from the component B here by accessing to this .store commit and pass the name of your mutation. Okay, so if we increase again, we can see the number increase from component A, and then if we click decrease from component B, value will keep changing inside both components. All right. Any questions so far? I'm not sure with the version we use version 2, but you see we have problem. So now just do the version 3. And here you access to the stat through the mutation and through the stat here. But actually, what we recommend to do is to access when you want to change something, it's better to use the action. And once you get something, it's better to use the getter. Okay. So here you should look through how to access to the action. You can go to action here. You need to define the action here. And then when you want to call it, you need to call store.dispatch like this. Okay, it's better this way. So we can try to write it like so. I create another action. And then I write it, actually mutation like we mentioned before, it should have the capital letter, right? Increment. Okay, so just update our store like so, decrease and increment. And then inside here, we have an action. I call it increase count, just make it like this. And inside here, we can access to the action with the commit like this. This is for version 3. We should read the document in version 4. The action here, like this, we pass the context, and inside the context, you can call commit. Okay, so we have the context like this, and then we have the context.commit, and then pass the mutation name. It is the increase. Okay, make sure no increment. Make sure that it's the same name. And then we should have another action called decrease count, and we do the same thing. Take.commit, and then we call it decrease. Okay, so now we have two actions here. And then inside the component A and B, we don't access to the mutation like this anymore, but we use the dispatch instead. Commit is using to access to the mutation. Dispatch is used to access to the action. And when you are using dispatch, you need to mention the action name here. The action we are using now is called the increase count. So instead of increment, we call like this. Okay. So let's try it out. It still works. We click increase. You see? Actually, it's the same like before, but now we are following its structure by using the component access to action. Action call the mutation, and mutation update the state. This is what how the state should look like. All right. But here we either decrease because I changed the name, it doesn't work. Anyway, we need to change it to use the action. We need to use the action. So I change commit to dispatch, and then I call the action name here to decrease count. Okay, so when we decrease, it will begin now. Okay, and one more thing is still not yet perfect now because we are still using the state to. We need to use state directly to access to value. It's another recommendation to use getter instead of accessing state like this. So you can go to the getter here. Inside the getter, you need to define the getter here inside here. So we go to the store, in our store here. Right at the top, we have the getter. And inside the getter is the function to get the value from state. Okay. So here, let's say get count. And then what we do so here is just return the state.count. Okay. After we define the getter, we can access it inside our component by access to the getter instead of state here. So you go down, you can see store.getter and then the name of the getter. So here we access to the getter. See, getter with the S, and then the name of our getter is getCount. Okay. You can change it in here as well. Then try to refresh, increase, decrease, and that's work. See? So here is how you integrate the UX store inside the component and using the full functionality and how you can access to UX. When you want to update it, use the dispatch method. When you want to get the result back, use the getter method. It's just some recommendation. Instead, you can still access to the mutation that like what we have done by calling the commit function, or you can access to the state directly by using the state. Okay, it's just that this way is the recommendation that you should use. It doesn't mean that you need to follow this, but just some good practice. For now, you see kind of complicated why we need to go a long way to get the value. But when you start writing more code, you will see the benefit of using the getter and using the action. Any questions so far? I will push the code to GitHub. Okay. Now let's call it unit practice. Okay, so I put the code to the brand unit practice. I try to use U3 of YouTube, but like you see, there's something wrong. So in the example, we are using your U version 3 with the U8 version 4 here. Most of the case is the same thing. The difference is just here in some how you create the app, how you register it. It's a bit different inside here, but it's all right. You can still use it. Any question?
Not yet, teacher. I will to try this.
Okay. So you have the example here, and maybe we can try to work with our calculator. It has been 2 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, about the calculator that I asked you to do. Anyone have done it? We have the calculator. Where is it?
Yes, teacher. I'm done.
If you have done it, maybe capture screen, or maybe demo it directly. Can you demo it maybe?
Yes, teacher.
So go ahead, just demo click how you make your calculator so your friend can see. I will also work on the calculator to explain how we can do it, but after you demo. So go ahead.
Wait a bit, teacher.
mới cho hỏi
chơi chăm phong phích để tích hợp nhóm sẽ làm lại chơi chăm
ấy là rồi đó tam sum tân tới nhưng mà demo ai mới 200 pe chap cham mà vị trí ai demo á phải đấy
yes sure.
Okay, Chung, okay, so we go back to our calculator. Just update. I hope you everyone have done something, even you haven't finished it. So here, let's see what we have. I think it's better maybe just clone it. Because I don't remember which one. I push the latest code. But let me change the commit first. Okay, so try to run it. Okay, so here is our calculator. Drag it here. Okay, there's some problem here about styling. You can change it back inside our code. So we stop this, and then close this one. Okay, here is our code, and that's because I changed the style at the bottom. We use type align center. That's why it's creating our. We say here go to the center. You can try command it. So may it go back. Okay. So for now, we want to click on the button here to see the number appear in our screen. So for now, I have only applied the version, the button number 1. And what we have done on that by I create the input number, value default is 0. And then inside method here, we have one method called show number. And in this show number method, it is triggered from the button here. Button here is button number 1. See? So what we can do simply by just make sure all the other key can have the click event as well. So for example, this one, the button 2, I can write like this. I can put 2 like this. Okay. V on click here is the like a long way you write to apply the event. In short, you can apply by just use this symbol at. It's shorter. I think it's easier to understand as well. So just change like this and apply click event on every button. No, this is not a number, so we remove it first. 1, 2, 3. This number 3, so parameter should be 3. And this number 0, parameter should be 0. And then what else? 0, 1, 2, 3. Here, number 6. And here, number 5. And here, number 4. Make sure you change the parameter in here. Okay. Then we have number 7 here. We have number 8 here. We have number 9 here. 7, 8, and 9. Okay. So if we do like this, we go to our calculator again and we click on number here. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. It works, but it doesn't look like a calculator. Because when you in calculator, when you input number, it should appear one after another, right? For now, it doesn't look like that. Okay? So we need to change it. Can anyone tell me how to change it? Here. How can I change it in this function to make it appear the number one next to each other? Any idea, guys? Hello? Back with you. Okay. So the most simple way is the append string. You can append string by using like this, but remember, if we do like this, it's with plus input number, and here is the integer. You see, this is the integer. So if you put plus like this, it will not append the string, but instead plus the number together. That's not what we want, right? To fix it, you can change it to the string like this. And then you change the string in the parameter here as well. Something like this, right? But I don't recommend it. I better use the number. Keep it like that, but if you want to convert to string, you can append with something like this. Try to change it to string. Then try again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See? But the problem now is that we have leading 0. Number shouldn't have the leading 0 like that. So instead of append string, I think it's better to multiply it by 10. So something like input number multiplied by 10, like this, and plus the number. See? So try again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See? So now it has, you see the same thing, but actually what you see here is the number, and the previous one you see is the string. Okay? And you can also inspect in the view here. And we need to go to inspector. See, we have the input number here. You can click. You can see the number change inside. It's also inside the view instance. Okay. So this is what I recommend to do with the calculator. Instead of using string, you can use like this. If not, you need to figure out how to remove the leading 0. So it's a lot of kind of messy. So up until now, it's good. Our calculator, at least we can see the number inside the screen, but the operator here doesn't work, right? So let's say that we want to make it work. Say I want to click clear here first. When I click on the button letter C, I want to clear the input value. Okay, so we need to find the button C here, and then the same thing. I call it click. Instead of create another method, you can do it in a short way by using the input number, which is our data, equal 0. Okay, input number here is the data that we declare inside here. So let's say you can input like this, and then you click letter C, it returns to 0. See? So when you click event, it doesn't need to be a function name, but can be also a short instruction, like so. When you click on it, you apply the value 0 into the input number. That works as well. I just try to show you the different way you can do with the click directive. Okay. So, and then we want to do some operator here. Addition, multiplication, division, and subtraction. Okay. So in case like this, it should have another method. I call it operate, something like this, operate. And then it is the operator. Okay. So let's say if the operator is equal to the plus sign. Okay. So you need to keep what is up here in the screen right now, store it in somewhere else before you reset the input number to 0. Okay. So in our case like this, I prefer to have a temporary input with the value which is 0. So when we do the operate function, I will change this dot temporary input equal to the value of from this dot input number. You see what I want to do, right? I just make sure that the operand one keep it somewhere else, so you can reduce it. And then we need to change the input number here to 0. So your screen will see the number 0 again. And in here, when we click the plus sign, and like this. We need to keep the operator somewhere as well, I think. Can do like this by having the operator equal to some maybe new. I'm not sure. Small operator. I just want to keep the operator somewhere. And then we need to check. We need to check if the temporary input exists or not. Input temporary here, I should change it to new. Wait. It's a bit complicated, actually. Just do like this. We need to check first if the input, the temporary input already have it. If there is already, it means that we already click on the plus sign or minus sign before, all right? So if we click on the second term, we need to do the operation. That's why if we see that the temporary input already have some value, we need to check it here. If this dot operator equal to plus sign, we need to change the value this dot input number equal to this dot input number plus this dot temporary input, right? Or if this dot operator equal to minus sign, can say this dot input number equal to this dot input number minus. I think we are doing something wrong here. It should be in front like this. Okay. Like this. Okay. If this dot operator equal to multiplication sign, can do it like this, or if this dot operator equal to division sign, you can do it like this. And finally, we need to reset this dot temporary input equal to null. And then also this dot operator equal to null as well. Okay. And after we define our function, we can call it from the button here, like here is the plus button. So apply click listener on it. And then you need to supply a parameter plus sign. Okay. The same thing for division, multiplication, and subtraction. I need to find it where it. This one is that what? See we plus. So there are two plus. But I'm a bit confused here. This one is plus, and then this one is multiplication. Oh, maybe I test it wrong. Call it. And then this one is subtraction. And then we should have the division. Here is the division. Division is 4, 5, 6. Oh, okay, I cannot find it. Let's just test it first. So 1, 2, and then click plus, and then 2, 3 equal. We forgot button equal here. Something wrong here. But where is my? Okay, here. Temporary input equal to 0. Anyway, you have the idea, right? Because now it's not about WGA anymore. It's about how you define some algorithm to make sure your calculator works. I don't want to do everything in the calculator because there are a lot of things. So I just have to define some function and how you click it, how you can display it. But you need to do it by yourself. After this, I will post the code here. There's something wrong here because this doesn't work well yet. I will update it a bit and then post it to the Git so you can continue. It's not as an assignment, just I hope that you can finish it by yourself. And by the way, Vichie, is it ready on your side? Can you remove something?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, so go ahead. We don't have much time.
Hello, teacher. Do you see my screen?
Yes, sure.
Yes. I just click like teacher. I did download create a function with operator. I just click with number.
Hmm.
Yes, and with clear. Yes, and with delete and it point.
Can you show delete again? Delete one by one or delete everything?
Delete one by one.
Okay, good.
And button red is clear all. Yes.
Okay. Can we have leading 0? Can you type 0 first?
Yes, throw.
The number. Okay, looking good.
Yes. And click point is auto zero lead.
Can you click number and click point again? You can only have one decimal point, okay?
Yes.
So how about the operator addition, multiplication? Haven't done it yet, right?
Yes, sure.
How about the MC, M or M minus and M plus?
Not yet, sure.
But you know how those 4 buttons, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, it's pretty good so far. You have some time, maybe just complete the addition, the remaining feature of the calculator. I think you can do it by yourself for the remaining button. Anyway, well done. Anyone else have done the calculator as well? Do you want to show something?
Yes, sure. I use different with teacher. Teacher use for operate with multiple number, and for me just concat string.
It's fine. Actually, you can use concat string or you can change it to number like I did. It have there some advantage, disadvantage. It's up to you.
Yes, sure.
So let's finish what you have done. Maybe when you done it, I don't limit the time. Just do it at your pace, and just show us when you complete your calculator. It's not just for Vicky and everyone here as well. Okay. If you want to show something, or maybe you have questions, you start something, or you can also ask during the lesson as well. So today,
Yes, sure.
thank you, Vicky. And so for today, we only focus on the step management. I hope that you can understand how to use the step management. And I will try to figure out how to install UHV version 2. I will let you know later. And also the calculator, I will update the code that I have done and post to Git so that you can continue from there. And one more thing I need to talk about is the project that we talked in last week. We need to kickstart the project from next week. Let me show you that. If you have some problem with group division or with the topic or something like that, let us know. It's about the group member. You should contact your TP teacher directly because he was the one that do the division. But make sure your name exists because we are going to use this to evaluate your performance, to keep track about the project. And it will start, I already write it here. We start from Monday next week, which is 14 March. Today is the 11th. And it will be end on the 17th June. So you have 3 months about 3 months to do your project here. We have 3 presentations. The first one is on the, no, it's actually, it should be in this, like this. It should be 8 April. Okay. The first one is 8 April. Actually, it's just before your first vacation. And then the second one is on the 20 May, and the last one on the 24 June. Okay, so the final presentation is after the deadline here. So by 17 June, you need to submit everything, even the report, even the source code, you need to push to GitHub. Everything must be ready by 17. And then we will do the collective presentation on the 24 for the final presentation. Okay, but you need to have 2 more presentations in front here. It's not like the official presentation, but just like how to show your progress. But you need to do it oral. You need to present it by team. Okay. The first one we need to be done through oral presentation. The second one, I need to check it first. If it's fine, we can do some video. If not, we will also do the oral presentation. So for every presentation, you need to have slide presentation and the report. The report doesn't need to be long, maybe just several pages explaining the progress, like when do you meet each other, what is the progress, what the task you have done, what is the decision that you have made. Okay, you need to mention in the report and then show send it to us before every presentation. Okay, and then how to evaluate, how to give score. We have 2 types of evaluation. One is the collaboration score, and it's based on the presentation, how well prepared your presentation is, how smooth it is, how you explain about the progress during your working, your development. Okay, and also the report, and also the design, and also the activity. The activity here refer to the progress step by step from the beginning to the end. If you start working everything only in the last 2 weeks before presentation, your score will be deducted on here. Okay, so activity here need to mention in the report, mentioning your step-by-step progress. Maybe every week you have done this meeting, you have done this, you talk about this. If we can see the activity have a smooth progress, you will have full score on the activity. And the design, you need to do it online. We introduce the tool for you to do the design, and you need to share the design with us as well, and we give the score as a collaboration score. So the design need to be done between your member in the group. And for individual score, we need to give score based on your completion task. For example, in the project 1 here, this is just an example. Let's say we have 3 members, student A, B, C. And then we have the task here. The task here, you need to write it by yourself, okay? Here is just an example. I just show you how it should look like. We have the module, we have the feature, and inside the feature, we have the subtask. Subtask here is what you need to do by, the real task that you need to do. For example, in here, we talk about the authentication module. Normally, in authentication module, there are 2 forms, register form and login form. And in the login form, we need to create the HTML template. We need to create an HTTP pull request. We need to create the API in the server, how to accept the information. So here is the task that you need to do as a developer. You need to mark that who is responsible for each task here. And you need to divide between yourself. And after you divide it, and during your presentation, I will need to check the list here. Is student A, for example, here, responsible for this task? And I can see that inside during your presentation, the task here is already completed. It means that he have done 100% of his responsible task, so he will get 100 score. Understand? If he have two responsible tasks, but he have done only one, so he will get half score. All right. So the score here we have two types: collaboration and individual. And the final score will be the combination between these two scores together to get your final score. Understand? Any question? Any question? Hello? And here we have 9 groups. Before we prepare to have 10 groups, but I see that the remaining group here doesn't have any member. So we only have 9 groups. If you are missing your name inside here, let me know and I will update to some group. I won't create another group. I just add you into some group. Okay. All right. And then we have the project here. After everything is confirmed, I will create the Git repository. The Git repository here I will create by myself, and I will add all the members here as a collaborator. Okay, so that I will be the one that manage the repository. Make sure that every commit are correct, so that I can keep track how you organize your source code. Any material will keep in the Google Drive, and then the design UI, you may need to do it online. And the tool that I recommend to use is called Framer. You can try it here in Google. Just call it Framer. Actually, there are other tools as well, like Figma, like Adobe HD, but I think this one is the most easy to build. It's simple. The drawback of the tool is that it only allows 2 editors for free, I mean. Okay, so maybe you can create 2 accounts and then you can share between your member and use this tool. After you have done it, copy the link and put it inside here. I can come back and check your design. Got it? So let me copy the link here and put it here. And we have 9 projects, and we already talk about the topic of the project. The first one about COVID info, second about e-commerce, third about the shop location review rating, fourth about travel advisor, 5 about student networking, 6 about work app sharing, 7 about room renting app, 8 is about library, and 9 is about food ordering. But here is just some recommendation suggestion for you to work on. In case you have your own idea, maybe you agree between your member in the group, you want to do something else, you can do so as well, but you need to inform us first, me and Tim, to make sure that your project is not redundant with another member. Okay, so talk between your team member. If you want to do something else, you can suggest to us, and then we can update your topic here in case you want to do something else. But you need to inform us first. I need to make sure that every project is not the same. Okay? Question? No question? Take note about the schedule here. It's important. So we start on the 14th. And I forget to mention about the additional responsibility here. Each group needs to have someone to add for additional role. For example, we should have designer, we should have reporter, we should have tester, and we should have someone to communicate. Maybe what should I call? Maybe I call a leader. Normally, team should have a leader. Leader here, meaning that when I need to talk with the team, I will check with the student first. Okay. So leader need to understand what is the overall status inside your team. Okay. So if I want to ask what's going on in your team, what is the progress so far, the leader must know that. And the testers is someone that need to test the overall application. Developers themselves need to test by themselves, but we need to have someone, maybe 1 or 2 people, to test the overall application together. That's why we need some tester here. Reporter here is about when you start writing the progress report. When you are meeting with each other, maybe every week you need to write down what are the tasks that you have done so far in this week, what you need to do next week, you need to write it down. And then finally, when you do the presentation, the reporter here need to provide all the report here before the presentation. Okay, right. For this designer, you can assign 1 or 2, or maybe you want to design all together. It's fine as well. But I just assume that you should have another designer here. Okay, but you need to discuss between your team. Make sure that I need to have 1 person at least, or maybe 2. You've seen that 2 people need to act as a leader in your team. It's important. Okay. Any problem?មានបញ្ហាអីអត់?
ចប់ដោយសារអត់តមានបញ្ហាដោយសារតែយើងអត់តបាន meeting គ្នា meeting ហើយមកសួរគ្នាសិនចុះ
ហ្នឹងហើយឥឡូវយើងជួបជជែកគ្នាអីសិនទៅហើយបើសិនបើមានបញ្ហាក្នុងក្រុមអត់ធ្វើអត់អីអញ្ចឹងអាហ្នឹងដំបូងយើងត្រូវដោះស្រាយខ្លួនឯងសិនព្រោះថា project នេះគឺដើម្បីធ្វើម៉េចយើងអាច manage team ធ្វើការជាក្រុមបានហ្នឹងគោលបំណងរបស់យើងហ្នឹងប៉ុន្តែបើក្នុង team ដោះស្រាយមិនចេញសោះទៀតមិនថាក្រុមមាន7 8នាក់ធ្វើតែ2នាក់អ្នកផ្សេងអត់ធ្វើអាហ្នឹង report ត្រឡប់មកខ្ញុំវិញតោះនេះពេល report មកខ្ញុំនឹងជជែកជាមួយអ្នកដែលអត់ធ្វើហ្នឹងខ្ញុំជួយជាលក្ខណៈជាជួយក្នុងក្រុមឲ្យដែរណាប៉ុន្តែបើសិនបើពួកគាត់នៅតែមិនធ្វើអានេះខ្ញុំមកទៅតើធ្វើទេខ្ញុំដកបន្ទូតាមហ្នឹងទៅអូខេអញ្ចឹងមិនថាខ្ញុំជាដោះស្រាយក្នុងក្រុមរបស់យើងសិនដោះស្រាយបានដោះស្រាយទៅតែបើអត់ទេអាចខ្ញុំជួយអាហ្នឹងប្រាប់ខ្ញុំមកប៉ុន្តែសំខាន់ leader ក្នុងក្រុមត្រូវតែ active ណាទៅយក leader មកអត់ដឹងរឿងក្នុងក្រុមហ្នឹងអាហ្នឹងខ្ញុំទទួលយកអត់បានទេអញ្ចឹងអ្នកក្នុង team របស់យើងជជែកគ្នាតើអ្នកណា active มันសំខាន់ leader បកកែទេប្រាប់ហើយ leader មិនមែនថាម្នាក់ហ្នឹងត្រូវតែចេះកូដចេះអីទាំងអស់ទេសំខាន់គឺ active ខ្ញុំអ្វីអាហ្នឹងជា criteria សំខាន់សម្រាប់ខ្ញុំឆាតទៅឆ្លើយដឹងតែ progress របស់ក្នុង team ដល់ណាធ្វើដល់ណាអាហ្នឹងសំខាន់ការងាររបស់ leader អូខេអញ្ចឹងកុំយក leader ដែលបកកែកូដអាហ្នឹងបើបកកែកូដមិនអីទេល្អក៏ល្អតែធ្វើម៉េចឲ្យ active អូខេបើដឹងរឿងក្នុងក្រុមអ្នកណាធ្វើអ្នកណាមិនធ្វើខ្ញុំសួរ leader ហ្នឹងឯង progress ដល់ណាអីអូខេអញ្ចឹងបើអត់មានសំណួរអីទៀតទេពួកយើងចាប់ផ្ដើមពីថ្ងៃច័ន្ទអាទិត្យក្រោយហ្នឹងទៅជជែកគ្នាទៅណាត់ជួបពេលណានឹងរឿងក្នុងក្រុមរបស់យើងខ្ញុំអត់នេះទេគាត់ណាត្រូវ make sure ថាត្រូវដឹងថ្ងៃ presentation រឿងអីនេះត្រូវដឹងហើយ project topic បើសិនបើចង់ដូរក៏ដូរបានដូចខ្ញុំនិយាយមកអញ្ចឹងសំខាន់បើថាសម្រាប់តែ topic នេះហើយពួកយើងត្រូវមកអង្គុយសរសេរថាសនេះសរសេរឲ្យហើយសរសេរមុនធ្វើ project ហ្នឹងមិនមែនធ្វើ project បានសរសេរតាមក្រោយណាសរសេរមុនឲ្យហើយបើត្រូវការខ្ញុំជួយសរសេរសិនទៅបើថាត្រូវការខ្ញុំជួយប្រាប់ថាអត់គួរសរសេរអញ្ចឹងទេគួរដូរជាគួរអីចេះអូខេ បច្ចេកហ្នឹងសំខាន់គឺជា first experience ហើយអាហ្នឹងយើងយកសរសេរក្នុង CV របស់យើងឲ្យពីដាក់ការងារធ្វើពី internship អីអាហ្នឹងសំខាន់ហើយព្រោះយើងកំពុងរៀនអត់មានទៅមានអត់ភាសាពីណាទេអាហ្នឹងសំខាន់ហើយតែខ្ញុំចង់ឲ្យធ្វើម៉េចឲ្យបច្ចេករបស់យើងជោគជ័យមានរបស់មួយ demo បានអីចឹង So that's it for today. We may see each other again. And if you have questions, chat to me directly in Telegram, so I can answer you anytime. And that's it for today.